Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Hello and welcome back to the Startup of the Year podcast. I'm Frank Gruber, your host. I'm also the co-founder of Established and the co-CEO of Established, as well as the managing partner of Established Ventures. Today, I'm very excited for my next guest because I've known her for quite some time. Our paths have crossed a number of times, and her name is Amy Jo Martin. She's a best-selling author, speaker, and founder. She's worked with big brands, some of the biggest in the world, as well as athletes, and has just a really storied career. She's a best-selling author, as I mentioned, and she's also now helping people design lives that they love. And I got a chance to catch up with her when I was down in Austin, Texas, a few weeks ago at the Established House, and I was thrilled to have her join and be a part of this podcast. So first, before we get started with that interview, I wanted to quickly chat about what we've been doing with the Established brand and our programs. For some, obviously, you're familiar with Startup of the Year. Well, we just launched a new initiative called Established Network. So Established Network is a network of 10,000 plus entrepreneurs, investors, thought leaders, ecosystem builders, agency folks, corporate innovators, and we're all bringing them together in one place. And if you want to learn more, go to established.network. It's just established.network. And the Startup of the Year program will actually sit under this network. And we're going to continue to obviously run the Startup of the Year program through that. So exciting stuff. Please join the network. We're just getting it rolling. We're trying to get everyone over from our other community platform that is part of the Startup of the Year network is a part of as well. So we're trying to get that community all over to this new Established network and really get that moving. Part of it also is we're now hosting a monthly innovation circle, or the MIC, hashtag the MIC. And we kicked it off in March, and we're going to have another one every third Thursday. So, if you're in April, it'll be April 17th. And you can go to est.us/capital the MIC, MIC 2025. Again, it's est.us/the MIC 2025, and learn more and register for the next one, which is April 17th. As I mentioned, they're at 3 p.m. Eastern, and you could definitely come check it out. We've got guests on there, different thought leaders, different ecosystem builders, different entrepreneurs, investors. Depending upon the one you attend, they'll obviously change, but it's a great 1 hour commitment to the ecosystem and kind of things you'd like to probably learn about or get more involved in. And we're trying to do this to obviously continue to educate, create resources, create a place for people to convene. So join us on that MIC call. The MIC is coming up here every third Thursday, so mark your calendars. Unless, of course, it's a holiday. I think in June we have a third Thursday, which is on Juneteenth, so we'll need to switch that over to a Wednesday probably. But either way, we're going to try to stay very consistent and have a place for everyone to convene. All right, without further ado, let's jump into that conversation with Amy Jo Martin.
For those who are not familiar, Amy Jo Martin is an entrepreneur, speaker, author, and founder. She's a best-selling author, actually. She's done a really great job, and she's out on the speaker circuit quite a bit, and has a really popular podcast as well. All right, so with that, I'm excited. Amy Jo, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you need a mic. We need another mic right there. Double mic. Yep.
We're double mic.
Yeah, we're double mic. Yep.
Ooh, hello. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Excited to welcome everyone to Austin. I happen to live here now, so welcome.
All
you
right.
need any tips or anything?
So we crossed paths at South by in Austin, 2010, when you were working with Tony Hsieh, which we unfortunately lost a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He was on his Delivering Happiness bus, and I vaguely remember doing a video walkthrough of his bus.
We did. I mean, that was kind of before Uber even, I think.
It was a long time ago, yeah.
And then it ended up in Las Vegas, downtown Las
and then
Vegas.
we both ended up in Las Vegas, which is kind of wild, a whole other wild story. And now you're here.
I am here. Happy to be here.
And so what did you, with that, how did you get here, and what have you been up to since we last connected? You've got Renegade, you started, a new company, and you've got a whole network and globally of entrepreneurs working on things. But I want to hear from your take, what is the most exciting thing you're working on right now?
Yeah, this is my third company, Renegade Global. It was all inspired from an origin story when I worked in the NBA and worked with Shaquille O'Neal, and my boss called me a renegade.
Now, you were a point guard, right?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't that great, but Steve Nash was my backup. And really, as an investor, but also an entrepreneur, I really have a lot of respect for the conversation just now. Renegade Global, we have about 1,000 female senior leaders, executives, and founders across the globe. We have a venture arm. We have a publishing imprint with Simon & Schuster.
Oh, wow.
And we have a multifamily office. And we're a mosaic of misfits, really.
That's amazing, though. So you have the whole kind of cluster of different things you can offer. And then you have, is it women? It's only women, though, isn't it? Women Network?
It is on the individual side. Yes,
Yeah.
It's individuals. Corporate, there are men in those programs.
Okay, great. So let's talk about, so you've got the venture arm. So what are you looking for from that perspective?
So we're kind of really trying to democratize access to deal flow as well as the flow of capital through special purpose vehicles. So a lot of these women in Renegade, let's say they're senior executives from corporate, they don't have access to deal flow. They don't understand or maybe haven't had the opportunity, but they have money. They have checks to write.
Right.
So they want to learn, so we're learning and doing at the same time. We've done deals all the way from early seed stage AI tech companies to in healthcare to private equity deals where there's,
Wow.
4 billionaire white men and then our SPV.
Yep.
And it's cool because they're able to leverage their influence as well as their money. And the outcome, is women, when they write their check, they usually get behind it with their time too.
I've noticed that. And I think that's great because, the percentage of venture going into women companies is still really dismal. So do you focus also on women-led companies, or is it across the board?
We do. I mean, we've invested in a variety of different companies. They aren't all female founded, but usually there's a female at the C-level and or on the founding team. I have to tell you about one really cool one. First of all, we are also an LP in Jesse Draper's Halogen Fund, if anybody's familiar.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're really changing the game with what they've done with Innovate Alabama. They're writing a $10 million check for female founders in Alabama, but pulling together the leverage of national resources. And so it's really interesting to see how the game is changing. So, for example, Renegade Global Ventures, there are 40 women who invested into an AI company 4 years ago focused on fertility. We were the biggest seat on the cap table. And then Sheryl Sandberg came in. And then as we're growing and growing, it's been fascinating because we are the demo. We are the target audience. And we're able to feed that and inform that product and those solutions from the investor's seat. We have women on the medical board so it's really interesting.
So you've got that kind of arm. You're looking at startups. You've got a whole group of people investing in them. You've also got you mentioned a publishing company, or how does that work out?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So all these women in Renegade, they're top of their industry in different verticals. They're experts. They're speaking. They're writing books. So it's a container of leverage, and we pulled together a deal with Simon & Schuster and Forefront Books to create our own imprint, where the author gets to own more of the value they create, and we're able to really use the distribution pipelines of Simon & Schuster and their sales team. Same with the multifamily office in partnership with Raymond James. It's really it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, where we have grown more and more in terms of the leverage and influence and using that to create a different playbook, really.
So when I hear that, I hear partnerships. You're really solid at partnerships and working with these different brands and like you mentioned, Simon & Schuster. I didn't catch the other one because I couldn't hear it.
Raymond James, they're financial.
Yep. So you're working with Raymond James. Obviously, those take time. What are some kind of tips for folks that are trying to build partnerships to grow? Because you've done a fantastic job of it. I mean, it's kind of like how you've built this company, and I think it's one of those undervalued things. People don't realize how important partnerships can be to grow your business.
Yeah. Well, partnerships is where I focused in the NBA when I worked there. And so you're selling from a different standpoint. It's fully integrated. You're not selling by a cost per thousand, right? And one of my bosses, she taught me a really good question you can ask people to figure out how to go deep fast with them and figure out solutions. And that is, what is keeping you up at night? And so if you're meeting someone and you can get to that question and help them solve, even if it's on a personal level, empathy, reciprocation, listening, feeling seen, you're probably going to navigate easier, quicker to building a connection. And it sounds really surface or remedial, but it's where I usually start. If we can solve for that, we're good.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I didn't realize that's what you were doing prior. That makes a lot of sense, and that's why you've been able to just master that to build out Renegade. And then you've also got this network, right? This network of folks that are part of your global network. You do a bunch of different events. You do a lot to like kind of activate them. What are you most excited about, and what's kind of the focus there that gets you going?
Oh my gosh. So I love mixing things that don't typically mix together, right? So I've been speaking for quite some time, keynote speaking, and I've just added acrobatics and dance into my keynote. And so I've been learning flips. Yeah, seriously.
Wait, literally like flips on the stage.
Yeah, I know.
Want to see this. It's not right now, but like not here, but like
probably insurance
I don't have enough
waiver.
Insurance. Yeah, no, I don't have that. So we'll do it another time, but I want to see video of this. This is interesting to me.
I think there's just a craving right now. We have a lot of corporate women who are pivoting out or just this constant, what I really want to do is, and it's almost like a secret aside, and they think that's just a personal thing. It's not professional. It's like, no, you probably could. Have you tried? Have you started flirting with the idea, dating it, and then what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
So how do you see those, people have that, right? Like there's a lot of people that have that on the side. Like I want to do this someday. Why not make someday today? What do you tell those folks that are like sitting on it? Like what is the next step?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to study from some of the greats, right? Like working directly with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Shaquille and just Tony Hsieh and Mark Cuban. And there are 7 core things that I see them all do when they bridge the delta from idea to action. Number 1, they do ask, what's the worst thing that could happen? They start by psychological safety, de-risking. It sounds ridiculous when you kind of think of how long it would take to get there, right? What if it doesn't work? You just look for that first red, green, or yellow light. Number 2, they don't give themselves an out. Put a mechanism into a place where you hold yourself accountable, you burn your boat, right? Set the launch date, set the birth date, tell someone you're going to do it. They leverage adversity like it's an asset, right? It's an asset in disguise. And then they're all hyper aware of their mental, physical, emotional state. It's
so
data.
Staying on top of that.
It's just science informing, right?
Right.
And they're all pretty darn good at toggling between their operating system and their belief system, and that's how they stay aligned. They're pros at leveraging their personal brand. Look at DJ Dwayne Johnson and Shaquille, and that's a way they can scale their time and get more than 24 hours in a day. And then lastly, they understand the difference between bandwidth, which is 24 hours in a day, and capacity, which is infinite. And if they focus on what they're uniquely qualified to do, that's a Tony Hsieh nod right there.
Right.
They know that that's where the earning potential, that's where the joy, fulfillment, efficiency, innovation is. So it's just like studying those people, and it's not rocket science.
I lost track of the numbers there,
there's actually 7 now.
Okay, yeah,
5 or 7.
I got the gist of it. I'll have to follow up with that later. But you mentioned Tony, and obviously we had that kind of connection with Tony, and we're both in downtown. And what's like to this date? You mentioned a couple different mentions, but I wanted to hear from your perspective. What's the one thing that kind of has shaped you the most about your time interacting with Tony that you're still are like kind of doing today as part of like that time that you learned something from Tony, or even absorbing like what he was doing?
Gosh, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about Tony and what would he ask me? Like, what's that question? It's my first investor, mentor, friend. And I think the biggest thing is fly higher. He was a visionary, and there are so many tactical things, but I'm always asking myself, could we be flying higher? Could we be thinking bigger? Because he could just take it to next level.
Right.
And you don't have to go straight there, but, and then it's ship the work, iterate, get it out the door. And the answers are on the street. They're not in a whiteboard session.
And then you've got a lot going on, and I know you have a family too.
I do.
How do you balance that family kind of life balance with like just making sure that you're happy? Because obviously I'm just thinking about Tony again, like the delivering happiness kind of, method of making sure you're happy and all that. And I know it's an ups and downs battle with everything, right, every day. But like, I was curious on your take on what you've learned from all of that. Yeah,
that's a great question. I think I don't know that balance exists for me. I have a almost 6-year-old at home, but travel a lot. But if I'm playing in that capacity world versus shaking at bandwidth and tapped, I'm usually happier. I'm a better mom, investor, leader, entrepreneur, neighbor. And so,
and I watch your runs. Not that I watch you on your runs, but I watch you on social on your runs, and it's fun to watch. So basically you're out there. Is that you do a lot of running because from a mental perspective, kind of clear. It's a good mind reset. Is that?
Yeah, and mood follows action. So if I'm
Right.
stuck, I'm gonna go move. With action comes a lot of clarity for me, at least.
Same. That's why I'm curious.
So yeah, we're not gonna get the answers sitting there trying to think our way through it. Usually,
right,
yeah.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So you've been in Austin now. How long?
This will be my 4th year in Austin, Texas.
Okay. And how have you seen that kind of transition from other places? 'Cause I know you're not from here, right? So
Right. So it was right at the middle of COVID. So I had a lot of fellow friends from LA and New York and all around move here at the same time, where we were like, we're full. But it is incredible. It's spent a lot of time in other cities, and this one will just hug you, and a lot of hospitality, but progressive thinking, not as much elbowing as I've maybe experienced in some other cities. But it's incredible what's happening here, and we're excited.
all right. So let's talk about being at South by. There's a lot of big ideas, a lot of innovation, but some of it turns into reality, some of it doesn't. What is the biggest emerging kind of trend you see? Obviously AI is something people are talking about a lot. We talked about space being approachable now in the prior interview a minute ago. What's the most the thing that you're thinking about the most right now when you're thinking about trends and as you're building your business and you're seeing companies and you're meeting with folks that are investing and all the different elements of what you're doing? Yeah. What's the kind of thread that you're what, this is going to be the biggest thing, the next big thing, whatever that is?
It's definitely AI, but not from just a tech standpoint, really thinking about it as manipulating time and multiplying talent. And we have so much of a bridge between the technologists and the business leaders, right? So that translation and education bridge, anybody can play in that. 5% edge becomes 500% soon. But so that in itself, I think, is going to make coming from professional sports, make anything real, live, in person, not on demand, even more of a premium, even more valuable. Look at sports, look at this connection. I speak all over the world, and I've never seen the level of exhaustion in people's eyes than I do right now, and they're equally burnt out.
Or just in general?
And bored. What was that?
Here or in general?
No, all over. Not
okay.
This is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we're just craving real connection. So think about those two, that paradigm. Yeah. And go Jared back there with the green pants.
Yep.
And then the second would be, looking at.
Well, that's interesting, that point, because of all the social stuff we have, we're still craving interaction.
Yeah. We knew this out of COVID, but I think it's really landing now even more, and it will continue to exponentially as AI continues to, we can compete with our bandwidth, which is great. Let it.
Right.
That allows us to actually do what we're better at, which we can charge a premium for.
Right.
And the other side of that is we're going to see $30 trillion shift hands into women's hands over the next 5 years. So right now, globally, women control about a third of the global economy. It'll be half, 50% in 5 years. So what does that mean for your company, for your business, for your lifestyle, your consumer journey? And it impacts everyone. This isn't just a female thing. It's exciting to plan for, but also huge opportunity right now.
Well, you mentioned that transition, and also obviously you're an advocate for women and building businesses and investing in women. What is the biggest challenge you see right now, as you're out there talking to people, folks that are trying to create new companies or get investment or, invest in companies? What's the biggest challenge you see with those folks? Or even write a book or whatever it is. What's the biggest challenge that women might be facing?
I don't know if you'd call this a challenge or not, but I think it's a misconception. I try to encourage everyone to not fundraise unless they absolutely have to. And I think we've romanticized that so much in our culture. And if you can, a lot of times you can get started you don't need to go out and raise right away. Or maybe there's so many types of unique loans, a securities-based loan or different things that you don't have to necessarily give away equity. So I think just the education around, from people who have done it versus what you're reading in the headlines and what you've heard about. So I'd say that's one. And then it's access to capital, of course. We don't need as much mentorship, and we need sponsorship. We need resources.
Right. That makes sense. Because it's still super, like I mentioned, it's like 2% of women get venture.
Yeah.
Not that you need to raise venture, but if you do, that's pretty dismal still.
It is. I mean, this AI company that I'm on the board of and an investor in, we just raised our Series A, and it's a female healthcare AI company. And a lot of VCs just not into that.
But it's AI, so
and
you'd
the
expect...
stats are amazing.
Right.
You know, I mean,
right.
it's not
Yeah.
the numbers. It's
Right.
It's just not necessarily, but it's going to get more sexy because the money is there and will follow.
Well, one thing I admire about you is your ability to kind of value community and how you build out community. And you've got a community you're building right now, and a really loyal community. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, like, what have you done to kind of continue to, like, keep those people engaged and loyal and, keep it, vibrant?
It's funny, I keep thinking of Tony Hsieh, but he always talked about open sourcing, right? So at Renegade, you don't need to go through Renegade. We have our principles, we have our fundamentals, but it's like removing the friction of the entity itself, giving them access to exchange exponential value back and forth quickly, regardless of geography. So, we have what we call code red confidentiality, and it's both personal and professional. And when you can connect on real stuff, 1 minute we might be talking about prenups, and the next minute we're talking about private equity. And it's just, it's not always the case, that you have a network that is built and wired that way.
Well, it sounds like you're building real connections versus just, networking.
Yeah, I'm allergic to networking.
Right. Makes sense. All right, so let's...
Not like that. You know what I mean,
I know.
Frank. You don't
I know what you mean.
Either. It's the connotation.
Totally. What I wanted to ask then, just kind of as in closing, what are you most excited about right now? Like, what's the thing you're like, oh gosh, this is getting me out of bed every day, like fired up to go on those runs and keep it going?
Other than my 5-year-old being able to kick the soccer ball, actually. We have a game tomorrow. I'm like, yes, you made contact.
Well, of course, that's important, but I mean, outside of that.
Most excited, looking at how, right now, if you just even look at the stock market this last week, we're seeing so much volatility and tariffs on, tariffs off, so on and so forth. This is when the underdogs really do rise. These times like this where you're agile and people don't see you coming, you're underestimated. It's when you can start to move quickly and take advantage. I think we're going to see a lot more leveling of the playing field than we might realize. Yeah. AI is one reason why. Right. And so that's when you see, we don't just need innovation right now, we need reinvention. We need to totally rebuild some things, and I think that's going to happen.
Well, that's really inspiring, and we're going to continue this with just a rapid fire, and then we're going to wrap. So rapid fire here, lightning round, quick answers, no overthinking this. One word that describes your entrepreneurial journey.
Renegade.
There you go. A book every entrepreneur should read.
Oh my gosh.
Renegade?
Atomic Habits.
What is it?
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. All right. I thought you were going to say Renegade.
Or my book if you want to read it. That would be extremely self-promotional.
Best piece of advice you've ever gotten? It's hard. That's a hard one.
Listen loudly.
Listen loudly. Who said that?
My mom.
Oh, there you go. Love it. All the moms out there. That's awesome. All right. Favorite memory from South by Southwest? I
would say 2010-ish. There was a school bus. It was a party bus, and it was out of, it was on having a good time. But it was one of those things where you didn't have to get off and go into the things that had all the long lines. You just stayed on the bus, and you just kept picking more people up and dropping them off. Because I don't love to, go from place to place. I just want to stay. So if you can find, also, can I give a hot tip?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does everybody know about the secret hammock down by the water?
No.
In the grassy area?
There's a grassy area with a secret hammock.
Well, it's back of the Four Seasons, but
yeah. That place.
You can meet there, and if you don't have a place to meet people, it's great because then you can go on a walking meeting, but you don't have to deal with
everything.
Lines.
We'll actually figure out later when we go there how many people are actually paying attention to what we're saying, because
I don't think
it's a secret. Oh, they're here. They're having fun. They're listening. They're absorbing. He's going to be at that hammock.
They just got the secret.
Yep, exactly.
They got the scoop.
That's a great tip. So I love that lawn. It's just a nice lawn to kind of hang out on.
Me too. And the water's right there.
Yeah, it's pretty. All right. So with that, last question, more entrepreneurial. Like one piece of advice you'd give to somebody that was trying to start something today, like in this room, like what's the one thing you tell them to do?
I would say you don't brand yourself, you are yourself, and that creates your brand, and that is your biggest asset.
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Amy Jo, for being here. Really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. Glad to catch up. Love to catch up with you more here, and appreciate your time and obviously taking out of your day. I know you're running around, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for everything you do for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much, Amy Jo. That was fantastic. It was so great to see you, and I got a chance to hang out with you a little bit down in Austin outside of this interview, so that was a lot of fun to catch up. And obviously, it's great to hear everything that you're up to. You're always doing. You're a force. I can't put it any other way. So thanks so much. And for our listeners, remember, there's no better time than today to get started with your entrepreneurial journey. Please join our network, it's now established network, and join our community for access to resources and support and everything you would need to get your journey going and your startup efforts to the next level. Until next time, I'm Frank Gruber signing off. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe and we'll be back with another episode soon.